This is the Throstle Club with Norman Bartlam and Bob Downing.
Well, hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Throstle Club. It's the programme which looks back on the long and illustrious history of West Bromwich Albion, and we speak to former players and supporters about their memories of our marvellous club, with a particular emphasis on this month in history, which of course now is April. Now, sitting alongside me, as always, is the man whose form rate apparently is always excellent. It's the former Sports Argus man, Bob Downing.
Hello, Norman.
Good to see you again, Bob. And opposite, as always, is Black Country Radio's very own Billy Spakeman, who's chipping in, no doubt, throughout the programme with his own comments. And I bet you've been twiddling your knobs in the corner again.
Yeah, since you've been here last time, yeah. I had to get some Raljix the one time and some, what is it, Savalon, because I twiddled my knobs so much.
That's far too much.
far too much information.
Far too much information. So hello to both of you. And we've also got another person with us in the studio today, who's Olivia from Kings Winford, who's on work experience. So she is keeping an eye on Billy, just finding out how professional things are.
Yeah, she might know more about the baggies than me. I don't know.
Yeah. So there you are then. So we've got lots to talk about, I think, today, Bob, on this edition of the Throstle Club. Well, welcome to the programme then. April, we're coming to the damaging end, or the exciting end, I suppose, really, Bob, but for the season. Now, obviously, we're a nostalgia programme, but let's just talk briefly, as we always do, about current stuff at the Albion and progress. Albion edging towards the playoffs, hanging on to the coattails, some might say.
Yes, I think that's all it's going to be now, Norm. I think you can discount, I think, 1, 2, 3 and 4. I think it's 5 and 6. In the league table now that the people will be going for. There's a lot of teams around the 6 plus with Albion now on points as we're talking. The result on Saturday against Norwich was not the one we wanted, obviously, and to get beaten in the last minutes again, it was a bit of a jawbreaker, really.
Yeah, Sunderland coming up, which is not going to be easy, of course. And we've also got Frank Lampard's Coventry to play, haven't we?
Must remember it's Frank Lampard's Coventry.
It's not Coventry anymore, Billy.
Oh, isn't it?
No.
The media always, it's Frank Lampard's Coventry.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Has he bought it out then? Or what?
Well, you would think so. But every advert you see now on television, it's, they were saying about it, Sheffield United against Coventry City was going to be televised, and ITV said it's going to. Our next match is Sheffield United against Frank Lampard's Coventry.
Oh, right, great stuff. Well, good luck to him. I did notice him on a news clip, and he has aged a lot, since he's gone into management.
Well, since he's been sent to Coventry.
Since he was
Nobody's talking to him.
No, he's sent to Coventry. Yeah.
Right, so where are we going to end up then? We're going to make it into the playoffs then?
I would like to think so, Norm, but I mean, this time of the season, we all want to go into the playoffs, but I think we're looking long term. I wouldn't mind another season in the Championship, just to try and get things straight, because the squad we've got, it's got to be a complete overhaul. You just worry as to what happened with Luton and what's happening with Southampton. It's getting a trend now, and it's a worrying trend, that the 3 that go up are the 3 that come back. We've said before now, we've got 2 divisions in the Premier Division. We've got the first 10, the bottom 10, and most of the clubs now just want to finish above halfway or above the bottom 3. That's their first objective, and that to me is. No, I've never liked the Premier Division. I don't like its greed. I don't like the way it continually tries to change the rules of football. I mean, I see the BBC now; they're getting worried because of the semi-final, the matches. going into extra time and penalties because it's disrupting their
Of
program
course,
schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, you get to the stage now where they've got to prepare for extra time and penalties. Now, what happens if he ends at 90 minutes? They've then got 3 parts of an hour to fill.
And you just hear them gabbling on.
And they're just gabbling
rubbish.
on and talking about the same things over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And people turn off.
Yeah, I think it needs a complete revamp anyway of the weight. The weights, the panels. I mean, they've been on for years. You need new faces and everything. They just say the same thing every time, don't they?
Yeah.
Exactly the same thing.
Yeah, not good. So, but really, what you're saying is we've got to get up, though, haven't we, to get the money?
That's right.
But
I mean,
on the other hand, we're not really equipped for it.
You're caught between a rock and a hard place. You need to get up to get the money, to get what the Premier Division gives you, but you worry that you're coming straight back. And I've read somewhere, and I don't know whether it'll ever happen, that they're now looking at cutting down on the payments that clubs get who get relegated, like the parachute payments, because Bolton Wanderers and other teams like that for years lived on the fact they were going up and down like a yo-yo.
Yeah.
And to me, that's, I don't know.
What psychology as a non-watching, visiting now? What's better for your well-being? For them to be where they are and winning some games, or to be up in the Premiership and watching them lose every week?
You're right. You get the euphoria of going up and going into the Premier Division, and then you start worrying. You look at what could happen, and the first thing you do, you set a points target. We've got to reach that points target. We get 30-odd points, 35 points. That's your target.
Yeah.
That ain't that's not sort of winning a cup.
No.
Or finishing in the top 10.
The reason I ask, I mean, somebody I know when the Wolves was right down and the Blues at the moment, and they're going, oh yeah, he was going, oh yeah, they're brilliant and Blues are doing it. I went, but they ain't playing anybody. They ain't playing anybody. That's why. And I said to him, well, would you sooner and be there and winning every game than up in the next division and suffering now and again? And he went, well, I don't know.
You just look. We'll say for the argument, Albion came up, which we all hope in a way. They came up. Manchester City, Chelsea, Liverpool, all the regular top 6. Do you honestly think that they're going to put out their strongest sides against the Albion? They ain't.
No.
That's why I can never understand people saying, "Oh, we're going to see Manchester City." The Manchester City will come to the Albion, even if in the Premier Division. And with the Manchester City that plays against Chelsea.
Mm. Well, they got such big squads anyway.
That's right. Yeah. So I think football has now reached a crucial point because you can see there's more people. It was interesting, Billy, on the international weekend, how many people, because their teams weren't playing, went to watch non-league.
Mm.
And everybody, most of the people you talk to, went down to Albion. Hey, what a great match!
Yeah.
What a good match!
Yeah.
Because that basically equal.
Yeah, without a doubt.
You ain't bringing in 17-year-olds from Brazil for 63 million quid.
Yeah, and I think the thing is as well, part and parcel of it, they're never going to get these FAs and that to change because, I mean, you've gone... Everybody last season complained, well, don't put any more games because we're going to go on strike. So they put the World Club Championships with 36 teams in and then increased the size of the teams in all the other international competitions. They couldn't care a toss about the players, could they?
No.
Really?
No, I mean, it's interesting as well that, with Harry Kane coming out last week and saying basically all the players are being ignored.
Yeah.
They're wanting a break. Now, okay, I mean, I'm retired and Norm's retired, and Norm, apart from doing this, which he does very well. When you think about it, if you're a Man City or Chelsea or Manchester United or wherever, Liverpool, you're going to get your players international, right? They're going for the money for that World Club Championship. Mm-hmm. It's nothing else.
No, money. Yeah.
It's money. And why that? And it's in America,
Yeah.
right? So they're sending everybody out there. They'll come to the end of the season. They've got internationals to play. They've got the World Club Championship to play. They'll have about a fortnight off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they'll be back training again.
Yeah. Tuchel said, didn't he? He said in the paper the other day, he said some players, if they're involved in that championship,
They're not going to
won't
have
have a break at all. They'll continue. They'll just come in. He says 2 weeks ain't enough. He says because they can't even wind down.
The worst thing that happened was this Infantino getting the FIFA job. Because, I mean, they're now getting more. We're now getting more countries in the World Cup. And it makes the thing...
Well, farcical, really.
Yeah.
Impractical and farcical, really. Yeah. You feel sorry for the players, really, even though they get loads of money.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they wear soft shin pads, don't they? I mean, somebody belted what's it the other day, didn't they? And I think the commentator said, "Well, his shin pads don't go up his shins. The money round his ankles. He deserves to be belted."
It sounds like Jack Grealish you're talking about.
I mean, we used to have the Beano cardboard comic down our shin pads at Smethwick Park.
And that was fine and dandy by you, wasn't it?
Whoa, very quick, very quick.
There we go. Anyway, let's move on before I lose the will to live. Gordon, Benny. Poor old Olivia in the corner. She thinks, oh my God, what
Do you
is
know
this all
do you
about?
like sport? Do you like football, Liv?
I've gone to the Baggies a couple of times. My friends.
Oh,
Yes, get in.
She can stop.
You're in, Olivia.
She looks, I could tell she was intelligent. Some cast eyes up on her. Anyway, a couple of more things that's in the news, really. Isaac Price, of course, doing well for Northern Ireland.
Cracking goal, that was. Absolutely cracker. And there again, you start now. I mean, we picked him up from nobody apparently had heard of him. He's playing so well for Northern Ireland. He's playing so well for the Albion. He's slotted in so very well. You just think now we got him on a watertight contract.
Yeah. So it's certainly going to be a star for the future.
I think so.
Yeah. Right, bit of news now, bit of a follow-up really. Remember we had Snarker who's been on our programme recently, and he's also, I think, Billy, he's been on some of the other Black Country Radio programmes, hasn't he, talking about a special find that he's made really of an ex-Albion player called Harold White, who died back in 1982, I think. But he played for the Albion just before and I think just after the war as well. And Snarker's discovered that he was actually in the SAS, the air service, the special air service. So he's been trying to track down, I think, hasn't he, Billy? Sort of people from his family and his generation that knew him. Yeah.
Well, a bloke who I have a cup of coffee with was in the Paras. And I was telling him, and he's a Baggy supporter. Yes, he is. And telling him about it. He says, well, he'll be registered at the so-and-so site. He says, but you can only get into it if you're an ex-serviceman. So we found him. And the amount of decorations the bloke's got is just unbelievable. I think one of the stories was he took out 24 of the enemy on his own, that they were in a bunker somewhere at one of these offensive things, and just went in and like Rambo and took them all out. So he's really, really well decorated as a soldier.
He certainly won the military medal.
Yeah.
He was in the Africa deserts. He was in Crete as well. There was an aerodrome that he was involved with where they sort of had 5 raids and bombed 20 aircraft or something. And he managed to get in and out on each occasion for that. So Snarker's managed to track down his daughter, Carol, who's in her late 80s now. So we're going to try and interview her and possibly try and get her on the next programme or at least record her memories and then play them on the programme in the next month or so in the build-up to November, when hopefully, subject to Albion's approval, and I think they'll go along with this, Snarker's going to try and do something for Remembrance Weekend at the Albion, because he's very much involved with that with the Albion anyway. Does some brilliant work on that. So if anybody else does know any more about Sergeant Harold White, he's from Wensby, just to play for Darlaston before he joined the Albion as well. So he's got good local roots there. Although, I say, it has been sort of 40 odd years or so since he passed away, but I'm sure there'll still be other people out there that've got memories of Sergeant Harold White. So if they have, please get in touch with us all down at the station. We'll be able to talk about him in the future, which will be great. Now, one other thing that's happened recently, the Albion Foundation have had the big walk to Petra which I was involved with amongst 18 other people that went on this fantastic trek to raise money for the Albion Foundation last week. So this time last week we're floating in the Dead Sea, I think.
Yeah, you were.
Even I could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reading the Sports Argus.
I took the Sports Argus with me just to do a bit of research. It's amazing the depths. I thought the depths that the Argus could sink to, but it didn't sink. It
just floated on.
Just floated. And all the people there. So there was 18 people on the trip. They were all in the sea, and not all the salt of the earth. It turned out. They're really good people. So let's give.
Don't take up stand-up comedy.
So I'll give a shout out to some of the names. So it was John and Steve who helped to organise it, and James, who was one of the walkers as well, who's president of the Albion Foundation. And also hopefully I've got everybody: Chris, Dave, Dean, Mike, Spiro, Sophie, Sean, Lauren, Matt, Peter, Teresa, Trevor, Jude, Liam, and also Ian from the Charity Challenge group, which helped to organise the event. So everybody got on extremely well. It was really interesting. I knew 5 or 6 of the people beforehand, and I got to know the others, and it's just a fantastic group of people, got on really well. So quite a walk over deserts, up the hills. So it was 40 odd miles altogether, which doesn't seem too far, but when you think about it, it's uphill and down dale or uphill and down mountain a lot of the time. And I was ill at one stage and absolutely tired, shall I say, is a polite way to put in it. So nothing that a mule couldn't do to help me out of it on a couple of occasions, much to everybody else's amusement, of course. So it was a brilliant thing. We had a brilliant guest called Abdullah, who was a guide that showed us through, and some of the Bedouin tribesmen that we met as well were acting as guides and helpers and cooking the food and putting the tents up for us. One night there was a disastrous windstorm during the night, and a couple of tents were blown over, including mine, of course. So mine was completely upside down. So next morning the poles that were in the ground at 10 o'clock at night were up in the air at 10 o'clock in the morning. So that was quite interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. They're walking across the desert now, these Bedouins, and you can hear them all singing, "Come on, you baggies."
Yeah, we're trying to get them to sing
Baggies t-shirts.
Baggies. And some words sung about the villa as well. They were singing at one stage.
Yeah.
But
Well done, the villa, by the way.
Can't quite remember the words. There was no need for that.
You got to be neutral,
There was no need for that. No. This programme's called the Throstle Club, all about West Bromwich Albion. Don't forget things. Anyway, the Petra thing was grand, and we had a message from the Albion owner, Shilan Patel, and we're going to play a little clip of what he had to say here.
Hi, I just wanted to say hello to all you amazing Albion Foundation volunteers on your trek to Petra to raise money for the foundation. I'm so excited that you guys are doing this, and I know it's a tough road and you got a tough final day, but I just want to say I'm really excited, really appreciate what you're doing, and keep going. Have a great final day and finish strong.
So it was great when you're yomping across the desert up the mountains to suddenly get that message come through. So that cheered everybody up, and so that was brilliant of him to show the interest there.
Just shows what a good owner he is.
Yeah.
You know, that he's involved with everything that's going on at the club, which is a massive improvement from what we had before.
Yeah, not just really interested in it as well.
Yeah.
And he sounded obviously keen on it.
Yeah.
Now, I mentioned about these folks that were helping us from the local area, and they did a little bit of a cabaret for us as well. Here's a little clip of what it sounded like.
Black Country Xtra.
Well, there we are. So that was the choir in Petra, and the girls singing the Black Country Xtra jingle. I'm not sure which one I like best, really. But
Yeah, we tried to get Taylor Swift, which you wouldn't do it.
one round the campfire sounded a bit better, I reckon. Anyway, that's brilliant. Now, just to finish up on the Albion Foundation, the Petra Fund is still open. So go to the Albion Foundation page on the website and the Foundation page on Facebook if anybody would like to contribute something towards it, which is brilliant. Now then, part of your work, Bob, on the Sports Argus and Express and Star Door was football, but you became the horse racing guy as well after a while, didn't you? Racing editor.
Yeah.
And of course, it's the Grand National coming up this weekend, so we're recording this in the week before the Grand National starts. And it got me thinking a bit about GGs.
Oh, here we go.
You're going to enjoy this, Billy.
Really?
Right. Horses. An Albion team, if you could make an Albion team up out of horse names, sort of puns. The
right.
punny one, the punniest, the best.
Yeah.
Okay, so I only thought of this during the night when I woke up. So I've made a big list straight away and put it on Facebook this morning to see if anybody could also contribute. We've had a few suggestions as well. So here we go then. So if we had a 4-4-2 team, shall we say, obviously we need a goalkeeper. I've got 4 so far. Remember Albion goalkeeper, Mr. Naylor? Stu Ard, Inquiry Naylor.
Yeah. Oh, got him.
Yeah. Then,
That's a bit...
Then we had, back in the day, Mr. Heath was the goalkeeper.
Norman.
Neyman Heath. Yeah. Currently, we've got Ted.
This girl's on work.
Currently, we've got Ted Can in goal. So Ted Canter.
Yeah.
And the Scots goalkeeper from the late 50s, early 60s, Mr. Wallace.
Jockey Wallace.
That's all right.
Yeah. So who are we going to have out of those? Stuart,
Jockey Wallace.
Neyman, Jockey Wallace.
Jockey Wallace.
So Jockey Wallace is our keeper then.
Yeah.
Right. Defenders. So far, we've got about 7 names. We need 4 from these. Well, obviously, we've got Darnell Furlong.
Yeah, got to have him.
Anyway, so he's got to be in. Then the Dutch guy that we've had from years ago, Carl Hoofkins.
Don't remember.
Then there was the wartime guy that we signed in the trenches in the First World War, Tommy McGee.
GG, yeah.
Yeah. Then we had Wayne Wilson.
Yeah.
Graham Trotter.
That's a good one.
Nicky
Reed.
Oh,
Nicky Reed.
Nicky Reedrum.
No,
Nicky Reedrum.
Ricky Reed.
And
Reedrum.
Nicky Reedrum.
That's stretching it a bit.
And Martin Albrechtsen. Yeah, so obviously we've got to have Darnell Furlong out of that, haven't we? Yeah.
Trotter's got to be in. That's all right.
Trotter's
Graham
gotta be.
Trotter, Nicky Reedrum,
Yeah.
and one more over them. Of Hoofkins, I quite like.
Hoofkins, yeah.
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 Okay. Come in here to the microphone, Olivia, because we might bring you on this to adjudicate on here. Right, we need some midfielders. Now, the winner of the 2004 Grand National was I Am Maximus. And of course, we had a Maxi, didn't we? Maxi Easy back in the early 2004s. Then Bomber is
Tony Brown.
Pony Brown.
Pony Brown.
Pony
I like that
Brown.
one.
Right, then we had Len Cantor. Hello.
Oh.
Then the oldest, one of the Albion's oldest players, Mr. Bassett.
Philly Bassett.
Philly Bassett.
Philly Bassett.
So we've got to have him in. Now, guest in the programme in the past, one of our local guys, Mr. Faraday. Rain Faraday.
You've had rain before, though, haven't you?
Well, going on. At the moment, we've got Fenton Hurdler.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what about the Welsh cap player, Mr. Johnson? What's his first name?
Welsh cap.
A Welsh player.
Really?
Welsh player.
No.
That was. He's now commentator. Andy Johnson.
Oh, and yeah.
Andy Johnson. Handicap Johnson.
Yeah. And yeah.
We had Finn Aziz for a while, didn't we? So that's a photo Finn Aziz. And we've got a suggestion from some people as well for other midfielders, haven't we? Yeah, Ass Hartford.
Ass
Hartford. Right, so we need 4 from that. We've got to have Pony Brown, haven't we? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, got a Pony Brown.
Gantello. Philly Bassett,
Yeah.
maybe?
Yeah.
Or should we stick with Finn Azaz, photo Finn Azaz, or Handicapped Johnson? What do you reckon?
Handicap Johnson.
Handicapped Johnson instead
Yeah.
of photo Finn. Okay.
Yeah.
4 midfielders there then. A couple of forwards now. Obviously, Jeff
Hassel.
Horsfield.
Oh,
Jeff,
blimey.
Jeff Horsfield. And we've got Lewis Dobbin
Yeah.
and
Bobby Joe Taylor.
Bobby Joe Taylor, because Bobby Joe was a winner, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah. Andy National Hunt. How about that one? We've got to have that.
Got to have that one.
Now, you've got one about Valentine's book coming from somebody, hasn't he? Who sent that one in? Let's have a look on the list.
That was
it's
me, Carl Valentine.
Carl Valentine's book. So that's got to be in, I think. We've had a Colin West one, haven't we, from Dave Howson, who was on the show last week.
Yeah.
Colin West Tip. West Tip won the National in '86. And currently, we've got Devante Cole, haven't we, at the Albion? Devan Locanti Cole.
Yeah.
Devon Locanti Cole we could have. And then Albion goal scorer from the 70s, David Shaw. David Shaw Head.
Yeah.
Yep. So
And,
we need
another winner, Jay Trump Rodriguez.
oh yeah, Jay Trump was a winner.
Yeah.
And how about Peter Odds on Wingate?
That's a good one. That's a good one.
And Chris Leposki come in with one, I think, hasn't he?
Shergar McDonald.
Shergar McDonald.
Oh, very
Shergar
good.
didn't win in the
I
national,
think
but he was
you've gotta
still
have
a
nine-
racehorse,
you've got to have
wasn't
9
it?
strikers in this
Yeah,
team.
so
You know.
we've
The
just
best
got to
strikers
get
are the
that
best.
down to 2, I think. We've got to
Yeah.
have Peter Odds on Wingate,
Yeah.
haven't we? And Jeff Horsfield, I suppose.
Yeah, Jeff Horsfield,
Jeff
yeah.
Horsfield is the
Yeah.
other. We can put some of the others as substitute.
Yeah, you can have.
Yeah.
Now we need a manager as well, of course.
And has
Pepe
he got to
Mel.
be a manager?
Albion manager Carlos Corbier
That's a good one.
instead of Carlos Corburn.
Yeah. I mean,
And
Pepe Melling Road.
Pappy Melling Road, which I've got written down.
Yeah.
As well.
Nice one.
So Melling Road is more national related, isn't
Yeah.
it? So shall we have Melly?
Yeah.
Pep Mel? God knows how we'll get on there with Peppy Mel back on the reins up front. So we've got Jockey Wallace in goal then. And we've got a back four, Darnell Furlong, Carl Hoofkins, Graham Trotter and Nicky Reed-Rum. In midfield, Pony Brown, Len Cantarello, Philly Bassett and Handicapped Johnson. And up front, Jeff Horsfield and Peter Odds on Wingate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a team of beaters there, isn't it? And Pepe Mallingrode is going to be the manager. We need, if only that could happen. But, and of course, the big Albion celebrity fan, a well-known fan who died a few years ago, one of Albion's oldest fans, was called Vic Stirrup, wasn't he? So that could be quite appropriate.
Yeah. You want to keep these? We'll really do it for the derby as well.
Yeah, we'll do one for the derby as well.
Yeah.
So that's our team then of Grand National related horses. Now, briefly, you were at the Grand National, weren't you, covering it for the Argus in 1997 when the big bomb scare stopped the race?
That's right. I mean, there'd been a problem on the Thursday when the police had received a threat saying that there was a bomb underneath one of the bridges close to Aintree. So they closed off the motorway. I didn't go on the Thursday anyway, I was just going for the Grand National. We were in the Grand National, everything was going as it should have been. And then I was in the press box, in the press room, and security came in and said, you must evacuate immediately. Don't take anything with you. You've got to go now. Because people are unplugging laptops and what have you. And they said, no, you've got to go now. You must go now. And they really did mean now. To the extent that Des Lynam was doing it for the BBC. And the clerk of the course, forget what his name was now, came up and said, even you've got to go, the BBC. You've got to go. So instead of watching the horses cross the Melling Road, I was actually crossing the Melling Road at that time with the chef and with a couple of jockeys and members of the public and a bookie. And we were all told to go out. They actually, because of the threat was so real, they actually cut down on the mobile phone. They cut down all the devices. You get the sort of signals. They cut those down. That's why a lot of people who went by helicopter couldn't get off.
Oh, blimey.
Because they stopped everybody going up in the air.
Yeah.
They basically stopped all communications.
So how did you manage to get something into the Argus that day?
Well, I made my way across the Melling Road. Then we went back down towards.
It's Bob Downing
Aintree.
crossing the Melling Road. With
That's right. Yeah, crossing the Melling Road. Fortunately, people knew what was going on because they were watching on the telly. You know, who lived around Aintree. So it was knocking on doors, asking if they could use the telephone, because all the mobile signals had got down. Could I, use your telephone? And they were good. They were really good. We went in. One lady made me a cup of tea, and I sent the stuff back to the Argus. And then, fortunately, I could then sort of start working on, because I had to do the Mercury as well. It was an amazing day, and of course, the upshot of it was that they actually ran the Grand National on the Monday. They said the Grand National was not going to be disrupted, but what I'd gone in a fellow journalist's car, and we'd parked on the racecourse, and we weren't allowed. But just a little funny aside, and this is the Scouse humour. This is. We were all walking round. I mean, all the jockeys were all changed. They were walking round in their silks. They were escorted out of the place as well. So you got this amazing thing of owners and trainers and jockeys, all still in their racing stuff. And me and Bob Williams, it was from the Shropshire Star, I was with, and he said, "Come on, let's see if we can get a drink." And there was a pub not far from Aintree. And as we walked in, the fella said, "Sorry, lads, it's 50p to get in." And we said, "What do you mean 50p? It's a public house." And he said, "No," he said, there's that many people there coming in. He said, "We've got to restrict numbers, so we're going to charge people." I said, "Okay." And so we handed over our 50p. When we got to the bar, he said, "A couple of points, please." Yeah. And he said, and Bob said, he said, "It's a bit much charging 50p to come in." He says, "Who's charging 50p to come in?"
I was on the door.
And he said, "There's a bloke on the door." He said, "There weren't got nobody on the door charging 50p." And of course, when we went out, he'd gone. And he must have made about, I don't know, 100 quid.
This is the Throstle Club with Norman Bartlam and Bob Downing.
All right, back to the football side of things now then, Bob. And
Yeah.
let's talk about some things that have happened in this particular month in history, obviously of April. There's a brilliant thing from Easter, April 1999. A certain player missed the kickoff, missed the deflatus.
Oh, yes. Can we ever forget that? I don't think Dennis Smith was manager one day. Yeah. I don't think he will. How do you you're a professional footballer and you know what the fixtures are. How do you get mixed up between an afternoon kick-off and an evening kick-off? But Mr. De Freitas did. He thought it was an evening kick-off, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
Was it Crewe?
Yeah, it was against Crewe, but to give him a bit of slack, perhaps. It wasn't used to the football over here, I don't suppose, was he? It wasn't perhaps aware that a bank holiday match kicked off at 3:00 instead of a 7:30 for the midweek game. But perhaps I'm being a bit kind on him there.
Where does he come from?
They
might usually have a siesta, haven't he, in the afternoon?
Can't come from anyway, but it would have been told, or it should have been told.
Yeah,
anyway.
Yeah, I mean they don't make their own way to these away matches.
No.
It's the gap match against Crewe anyway. Anyway, 60 years ago. Now coming up, it's April '65. Graham Williams' testimonial.
Yeah, just
game.
about remember it.
Just amazing on that one.
Yeah.
And of course, possibility of mentioning a book at this stage.
Oh, come on.
I just happen to know somebody who's co-written a book called The Skipper.
Yeah.
It's all about Graham Williams.
Is it
The
really?
Albion yeah, it's available in all good bookshops.
Including
Billy.
the Hub, the Black Country Hub, down opposite Next in Muriel Centre, the Black Country Radio Xtra shop that you can now go and peruse. And it's there, I think, on the first shelf as you go in on the left-hand side.
Can you
and
be a bit more specific how far up on the shelf is it?
Well, it's right next. Yep, so go in, have a peruse, and see Paul and Christina in there most of the time, and they will gladly take your money off it. I think it's
17.50.
17.50.
50. Yep.
It is a good read.
You
a
can
great
also
read.
get it from stuartcurtis.com if you want to buy it online as well, but you have to pay the postage, of course.
Oh, of course,
but
yeah.
Of course, you don't pay the postage. If
No,
you go
and
to-
you have a gentle smile and a warrow from Christine when you go in.
and that is worth
Everything.
Well,
Yeah, without a doubt.
you can't put a price on that, can
No.
you, really?
No.
Yep. Anyway, now 90 years ago, a bit
Oh,
before your time, Bob.
Yeah,
I
a bit
won't
before my
admit.
time, yeah.
Good quiz question for you.
Okay.
Fog stopped the cup final
Fog, stop the cup final. Yeah.
because. How did that come about then?
What, the fog or stopping the cup final?
1935, Fog stopped the cup
It would have been, well, obviously you'd have factories, not surely it was factory smoke building up and stuff like that.
final. Bob?
No.
Fog stopped the cup final when he blew.
Foggy, no, the referee.
Yeah, the
was-
referee was called Mr. Fog.
Yeah.
He's a sly one.
Yeah, so he just
He's a
blew his
slow-
whistle in the
Yeah.
normal manner. And that has been lost in the mist of time.
No.
Oh.
Right, that's when Sheffield Wednesday beat the Albion in the final there. So it was really interesting as well. But the Argus headline that day, Billy, it said that thrilling finish, deciding goals in the last 3 minutes. So it was a chaotic end to it. That was always a nightmare for an Argus reporter, wasn't it?
Yes.
Last minute goals going
Yes, that's the last thing you needed. You didn't need goals in the last 10 minutes because it means a complete rewrite. Unless Albion were winning 3-0 and it was just a consolation, that didn't matter. But when it went like 3-0, 3-1, 3-2, 3-3, and it did happen.
Yep. Now, 50 years ago, this very week,
Yeah.
I was just amazed when I realised it was 50 years ago, April 1975, when Don Howe was sacked as the Albion manager. And of course, you really, you're pumping, as it were, in those
Yeah.
days.
Yeah, I was-
So you were on the case, weren't you?
I remember it so well. I was working. Normally, we would have gone to the ground.
Were you on the Express and Star then,
I
or
was
was
on
it the
Express and
Argus?
Star. I was on the Express and Star.
Yeah.
Normally, that every morning we'd go to the ground and have a word with the manager, or at that time you could have a talk to the players, and there was various things, aspects you could go on. But this particular day, I was at Express and Star in Wolverhampton in Queen Street, and I about 9:30, 9:45, phoned the ground. And Janet, who was the receptionist at the ground, answered the phone, and I said, "Hello, Jan." I said, "Can I speak to the gaffer, please?" And she said, "Just a minute, Mr. Everest wants a word with you first." I said, "Oh, okay then." And then she put me through to Alan Everest, who was the secretary. And I said, "Good morning, Mr. Everest." And he said, "Could you call me back at 1 o'clock?" And I said, "Yes, certainly." And I said, "Can you tell me what it's about?" He said, "I will tell you at 1 o'clock, but the club will be issuing a statement at 1 o'clock. And I said, "Well, I better go. Yeah, can I have a word with Don Howe?" And he said, "Call back at 1 o'clock." So put the phone down, said to Brian Clifford, who's the sports editor, "I think there's something happening at the Albion, I think," because there was already talk about Don Howe getting the sack. I said, I think I'm sacking Don Howe." So Brian Clifford immediately had a word with Les Childs, who was the news editor, and Les Childs said, "Right, we'll hang on to the front page. We will not use anything on the front page yet until we know what's happening." And I said, "Do you still want it if it's a vote of confidence?" He said, "Yes." He said, "What do you think?" And I said, "I think he's gone." So then 1 o'clock, I phoned again. Jan put me straight through, and that's when Alan read me the statement saying that Don Howe's 4-year contract would not be renewed. They didn't like the fact that I used the word sacked, because they said he hasn't been. Well, one of the people at the Albion said he's not been sacked. We've not renewed his contract. Yeah, well, it's the same thing, mate.
Mm-hmm.
He's been sacked.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then everything starts again. But it was because we'd been given the heads up that something might be happening. We got everybody ready, and as soon as as soon as they started reading the statement out, I'd got the phone. We hadn't got speaker phones then, but I got my phone to my ear, and somebody else was listening as well, and he put the thumbs up, saying, "Go, he's sacked," and that was it. But it was a shame, really, because I mean, a lot of people really thought that Don would have done it for us.
So where did he go wrong then, do you think?
He tried to instill in the same team ethos that he got at Arsenal, and he was never going to do that because he got different set of players, and he also started changing the side too quick. He started getting rid of players. I mean, Tony Brown was one. Didn't he drop Tony Brown? He couldn't really. You could have done it with the Arsenal players, but you couldn't have done it with the Albion players. You know, you got to look at what the quality was then, and Arsenal had just won the double, hadn't they? So yeah, I mean, it was sad really because Don, you know, from then on, I mean, Don had that really that was just the only blip in what otherwise was a brilliant career. It was the only blip he had. I mean, he went. I mean, after he lost the Albion job, I mean, he became assistant manager to about 3-4 England managers.
Yeah, he did well.
You know, and they were the managers who were appointed. They asked for Don to be with them. So you could see then, you know, what the aura he had in the game. And as I say, it was just a sad thing, really. But no, it was a bit unfortunate, really.
Yeah. Now, David Instone, who has been on this programme, he was from the Express and Star as well, of course, wasn't he? He's been compiled a brilliant book, hasn't he? An Albion 1970 scrapbook, which, if any Albion fan hasn't got it, I recommend they do get that. An Albion 1970 scrapbook by David Instone. And one of the pages, page 83 in there, has actually got the Express and Star front page that you were talking about when you were saying the Albion weren't happy that you said he'd been sacked. In the headline in great big bold letters is Don Howe gets sacked. And it says 4-year reign at Albion ends by Bob Downing. Albion sacked manager Don Howe this afternoon. A statement from the directors issued at 1 p.m. said that Howe's 4-year contract would not be renewed and the vacancy would be advertised. So you did say that his contract was not going to be renewed there as well, to be
Who come after him then?
Fair to you.
Who came after him? Don't know.
Oh gosh, you got me now.
Let's
No,
get
hang
it.
on, who was it?
Ronnie Allen?
Ronnie Allen was it? But Brian Whitehouse took over first of all,
Yeah.
didn't he? As the Tempe guy, and he then a week or so later, Brian Whitehouse gave Brian Robson his first team
That's
debut,
right, yeah.
didn't he?
Yeah.
So you must have known Brian Robson as a kid.
Oh yeah, I mean, at that time, I mean, I was, I'd been covering the A team and the reserves on a regular basis when I was working on the Chronicle. Because when I was on the Chronicle before I went to the Star, before I went to the Horse Observer, but I was before I went to the Star. I used to cover the Midland Intermediate League and the Central League for the Sporting Star and the Sports Argus. Yeah. So you had first-hand knowledge of some of these players. And so it was no surprise to me when Brian Whitehouse called up Brian Robson.
I think there was only about 3 or 4 games left at the end of the season, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He was only, what would he have been, 17,
18? 17, 18. Yeah. But I mean, he'd already shown it, you know, at the reserve team level, Central League. I mean, everybody was saying, you know, he should be in the team. And that was when football clubs had a second team. Mm-hmm. You know, they don't sort of under 21 or whatever it is. And that's when I saw him. I'd seen in the A team Len Cantello, Asa Hartford, and also getting into the reserves. So I'd got a knowledge of these players, and I knew exactly what they could do. As everybody else could who went to, because at that time, you know, you would get about 4,000 to 5,000 people at the Central League game, and one of the reasons being is because that was before radio, you know, local radio. The only way you're going to find out how the Albion first team are getting on is to be at the Hawthorns when they put the scores up.
Of course, yeah.
You know, so I mean, there was no radios as such. You know, there was Sports Report which came on at 5 o'clock, but I mean before that, you know, there was nothing. Now it's absolute saturation. You know, and then it's but it was. I always remember the one fella who I always thought would make it, and he did make it, but not with the Albion. That was Jim Alton.
Oh, yeah. Jim Alton.
Yeah. Because the Man United fans used to sing 6'2", eyes are blue, big Jim Alton's after you.
Brilliant. Now, 25 years ago, this month, I was at Wembley, up in the Gods, but in quite an unusual game, really. It was the Football League Youth Alliance Cup final, and Albion thrashed the mighty Scunthorpe United after a 0-0 draw. Albion won 3-2 on penalties, and 18-year-old goalkeeper Elliot Morris was the star of the show there. He scored, would you believe, goalkeeper scoring one of the penalties, and he also saved two of them in the penalty shootout, and Mark Briggs and Justin Richards scored the other. Now, a little bit in the past, a few years ago actually, I interviewed Elliot, and he spoke to me about his career in the game, and how unfortunate it was that he never actually made the first team, but of course he got that record of scoring at Wembley, which is not something that many Albion players have done in recent years. I can't think why, but here's a little bit about what Elliot had to say.
Obviously a great honour to play for West Brom, and sort of obviously I didn't actually make it onto the pitch for the first team. I was on the bench, I think 5 or 6 games under Brian Little, and I think I got on the bench once under Gary Megson in a cup game. But apart from that, I'd rather have played for the first team, mind you, than scored that goal. But listen, it just wasn't meant to be, and I haven't done too bad.
Yeah, a lot of the stories about it was your height, really. That Albion didn't think you were tall enough for the goalkeeper.
Yeah, well, again, listen, you hear certain things, and people say, "Oh, I had a bad injury, this and that, and that's why I didn't make it." But again, I can only go from what the likes of Richard O'Kelly at the time was telling me. He was my youth team manager, and he was like, I think it was a guy, Bobby Hope, was the chief scout at the time, and he was down watching the games. I think we played Wolves that day. We beat Wolves, it was 2 or 3-0, and they had Big Lescott played for them, and Matt Murray and all those boys. A really, really good side, and we managed to beat them comfortably. And I think he said to Richard O'Kelly after the game, like, if that keeper was so much bigger, or a couple of inches bigger, he'd be a smasher. And I think Richard's answer was to him was at the time, well, what's the difference? If you're a good keeper, you're a good keeper. You know what I mean? But listen, I understood what he meant, and I got that. And as soon as you go into sort of the professional side of it, I understand the height and why the managers want the bigger presence. I understand that completely, and it's just one of those things.
Who do you reckon was the biggest influence on you then at the Albion?
Probably, listen, I have a lot to thank Richard and John Truig for, Richard O'Kelly and John Truig for. Those guys, if things were going wrong or weren't going well for you, they always brought you to the side and had a chat, and didn't like go for you, if you know what I mean. They sort of had that ear and lent an ear to you, and always sort of were there for you. And also if things weren't like to me being homesick at the start, they were always there for you. You could talk to them at any time about anything, and they were good guys and always there to help you for anything. And it was really like Richard probably more than John, but listen, they're both really good guys, and I have a lot of time for both of them.
Mm-hmm. So this 2000 final then, what do you remember about that?
I remember it all, but if I'm honest with you, I remember it quite clearly. It was obviously, I think I was first year pro actually, and they changed the sort of they changed the age sort of guidelines to it, and I might have sort of went into the first year pro, and I was able to play for the youth team still, and I think did Adam and James Chambers play as well?
Yeah.
Justin Richards played.
Yeah.
Tamika.
Yeah.
He played.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try and pronounce Tamika's surname. So like we had a really good side, and I remember it's Scunthorpe, wasn't it? We played.
Yeah.
It was Scunthorpe. Yeah. And it was just the experience was unbelievable. Like the nerves and all driving up to Wembley. Like you hear like over here you hear about Wembley and it's like like a folklore type thing. You know what I mean? It's like it's crazy. We never get this. Obviously, when I was younger, it was a thing you never got to see or never got the sort of view firsthand. But like when they said to us the final was at Wembley and it's going to be the last ever game, well, potentially one of the last ever games at Wembley, we were like, flip, this is crazy. But no, it was a fantastic experience, and I just remember obviously the penalty shootout. I remember saving 2 of the penalties and obviously stepping up, and
that's like that those people that don't know, you saved 2 penalties and then came on and came out a goal and scored the winner.
Yeah. Just again, I was always sort of renowned for having a decent kick, and I just thought to myself, I'm going to stick my boot in this and just put the keeper through the net, and I just managed to just obviously slam it home, and I made 2 saves before that, and obviously they hit the post with the final one, which meant obviously we won the final. So fantastic. It was a fantastic experience for us all as kids, and I think again I might have been 18. Again, unbelievable experience.
Yeah, fantastic. So it wasn't exactly a big crowd because we had real trouble trying to get tickets, but those of us that were there really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think there might have been a game beforehand. I think was it Bristol City who played beforehand.
Yeah, it was the Auto Glass final. It was Bristol City Stoke. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a game on beforehand, so I don't know if that had anything to do with it in terms of sort of the crowd and stuff like that. But listen, just playing on that pitch and being involved in that game, it's something that it's something you dream of and you don't think actually will happen or experience. So to have experienced that and have went through that and played at Wembley, even though it was a youth final, it makes no difference. I still played at Wembley, and there's very, very few people can never say that they played at Wembley, and especially the old Wembley with the Twin Towers.
That's right. Must be great for you when you got your young kids at Glentorrent. Listen to me, lad. I played at Wembley.
They still don't listen to me. Like my own kids don't listen to me.
I can't believe that young kids would never listen to adults. Dear me. But there you go. In fact, the nostalgia part of this program is something we're quite keen on, Bob, and getting youngsters involved in listening to the program, because it's important, isn't it, that you look back and reflect and know about your history.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I mean it's been a good. It's a long history of West Bromwich Albion, and anybody who follows them should be proud of them.
Yeah, whether we'll ever get another goal scorer at Wembley like Elliot Morris remains to be seen, doesn't it? But you never know what's going to happen. Or team.
Yeah. That was for the Villa job earlier on.
So there we go. Now, we were talking about the Argus a little bit earlier on, and we're going to end the programme today with a clip from the Sports Argus. But you've obviously got some brilliant memories of working on the Argus over the years.
Yes, I mean, I've worked with some tremendous journalists and editors, sports editors, Ian Johnson and Dave Stennett and Jeremy Griffin, and they were all brilliant. Yeah,
this clip to finish off with then is Jason White, Bill Howell and Chris Lipowski talking about the excitement of being in the Argus in the final moments of a game when there's a goal scored. Well, that's about it from us anyway. That's all we've got time for, and we'll leave with these final moments about the final moments of putting together the Argus.
It was adrenaline.
It was.
Every game. I mean, I remember Peter Schmeichel scoring a late goal at Goodison Park. Ridiculous, from a corner or something. These were the moments where Chris is right. You would pray for a 2-0 half-time so that you can have time to think about when that 60th, 70th minute comes, when they say to you, OK, Bill, we now need to compose your intro and your second, third, fourth pass. And you'd have time to think about it then, because the game's over. But those games where there's a late goal, a sending off, trouble in the crowd, I remember the Piggies fighting at Bristol City.
That was the Wolves mascot, wasn't it?
The Wolves mascot, Wolfie fighting the Piggies. I remember things like this. Things like this would be going on. You would pray that it would be early on. If it happened before the 60th minute, you could be calm about it because you'd have time to think about it. And now your intro, Bill. Aston Villa today sauntered to a 2-0 victory that cemented their place at the top of the Premier League. New paragraph. Yeah. Goals from Juan Pablo Angel, blah, blah, fantastic. Any goals after the 70th minute, you were now racing. You were now playing catch-up in your own mind. Another goal as well, twist, okay. And the amount of time the adrenaline kicks in, and you're talking to the copy takers, you're composing, and because of your relationship with them, they're incredible. You can say, no, scrap that. No, okay, take it back to a comma, change that to a comma, and I want to dash it. Okay, bring in, who scored again, remind me? And you'd be like that, and the adrenaline would go, and then when you'd got those 4 pars, and then the form rating, and you'd say, oh, I don't know, what do you think? How does it sound? You know, I don't know, is it good or is it great? Good, yeah, just good. Okay, we'll go good, give it 8, man of the match, oh, Gareth Barry, definitely, yeah. Really, are you sure? Because Dion Dublin scored a hat-trick, you go, no, Gareth Barry, I just keep...
Yes, a late goal was problematical, if I'm brutally honest, and it did, throw a fly into the ointment. But when you actually dealt with that, and you saw what came out the other side, and then you were waiting, you'd finished everything, it had been put to bed, and you were just waiting for the newspaper to arrive in the newsroom, and then obviously be copies being distributed amongst the staff. And you could see
live from the Black Country, online, on your mobile,